you all for coming for this DMDSC Lifetime Contribution Award, which we have earlier given to very distinguished people. And this year, the committee of our center has great pleasure in conferring the DMDSC Lifetime Contribution Award on Padma Bhushan Mr. Kris Gopalakrishnan, Trustee of the Pratiksha Trust and Co-founder of Infosys Bangalore, Karnataka, on Saturday, 20th April 2024. Mr. Kris Gopalakrishnan, as mentioned by Dr. Surendran, obtained his MSc in Physics in 1977 and MTech in Computer Science in 1979, both from IIT Madras, and an honorary doctorate from the University of Kerala in 2019. He is also a fellow of the Indian National Academy of Engineers, INAE, and an honorary fellow of the Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers, IETE of India. Mr. Gopalakrishnan started his career as a software engineer with Patni Computer Systems, Mumbai in 1979. He was telling us yesterday the story of how all the co-founders got together. It was very nice to listen to that whole story. So he is one of the co-founders of Infosys and also served as its CEO and Managing Director from 2007 to 2011 and its Vice Chairman from 2011 to 2014. He was elected as President of India's Apex Industry Chamber, the Confederation of Indian Industry or CII, for 2013-14 and served as one of the co-chairs of the World Economic Forum in Davos. I think that Mr. Gopalakrishnan holds several prestigious leadership roles in several institutions. He serves on the Board of Governors of the Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology, OIST, and is Chairman of the Governing Council of the Indian Institute of Science, ISC Bangalore, which is how I got to know him because I am also one of the members of the Governing Council. He is also on the Board of Governors of IIT Bangalore, the Vision Group of Information Technology of Karnataka Government, Reserve Bank of India, the Reserve Bank of India Innovation Hub and CII Center of Excellence in Innovation, Entrepreneurship and Startups, CIES. In addition, he also serves as chairman of the Itihasa Research and Digital, which publishes the history of Indian IT industry as Itihasa. Mr. Gopalakrishnan currently focuses investments on health research, specifically brain science, and today's topic he is going to talk about why he chose the brain for his investments. And he's also working a lot on aging related disorders as well as in startups and startup ecosystems. For his extraordinary contributions to the society, Mr. Gopalakrishnan has been conferred with several awards and honors, prominent among them being the Padma Bhushan, the country's third highest civilian honor by the Government of India in 2011. Recognized as a global business and technology thought leader, Mr. Kris Gopalakrishnan was voted the top CEO IT services category in Institutional Investors' inaugural ranking of Asia's top executives and selected as one of the winners of the second Asian Corporate Director Recognition Awards by Corporate Governance Asia in 2011. The Scientific Committee of Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Specialties Center and the Madras Diabetes Research Foundation congratulates you, sir, Padma Bhushan Senapati Kris Gopalakrishnan, on your various achievements over 4 decades and has great pleasure in conferring the DMDSC Lifetime Contribution Award on him. May we now request Dr. Surendran, Chairman of Sankara Nethralaya, to hand over the medal, certificate and plaque to Mr. Kris Goapalakrishnan.
Gopalakrishnan Ji, whatever it is, known also as Kris Gopalakrishnan, for his phenomenal contributions to the world of science and humanity, and a very understated and a humble person, possibly a characteristic that must have been fortified through association with the Renewable Association. at the Infosys. My son was at Infosys for 5 years. I know that what culture you have. I found out that Sir Gopalakrishnan is a very remarkable person who, without making much noise, I could say, I think in Mohan's room, I was the only fellow talking all the time. He was silent. We were talking about my association with MGR, etc. Nobody knew that MGR had so many other, I think I didn't want to go through that. But I think he was keeping quiet. Salute you, sir. He has quite, I think, done some very deep and impactful work in promoting research in brain sciences, aging, and age-related disorders. So I learned that Sir has contributed several hundred crores to develop a center of brain research at the Indian Institute of Science in Bengaluru. His contribution is the largest individual donation to this institution in the 105-year-old association. Nobody can break the record. It is like Virat Kohli and Dhoni. He has again contributed an additional amount of more than 50 crores to set up the distinguished visiting chairs at neurocomputing and also data science at the IISc Bangalore and Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. Hope I am alright because I got it from Google Chat. Kris Gopalakrishnan has also again funded IIT Madras now and also in setting up the Sudha Gopalakrishnan Brain Center, which I am told is the first of its kind in the world. The center is undertaking the cellular level image mapping of the brain. I also learnt that he is a lot younger than many of us here, and I think both of us look the same age. I don't know, but he was walking very fast ahead of me in his class. And Mohan made me to walk 2 stories after a long time. I also learned that he is lot wealthier than all of us put together. Perhaps and certainly highly accomplished person. Sir Gopalakrishnan comes from a very humble background. He studied at a government school in Trivandrum in Kerala, and then he did his Master of Science and his post-graduation from our IIT Madras. He has several honors and awards to his credit, including Padma Bhushan. This is more class. Padma Bhushan is the ultimate. Very rare to find such a human being who have excelled in the chosen field of work, building enable institutions like Infosys and become wealthy and then give away a substantial wealth to the welfare of the society. A truly blessed soul, sir. We thank you. We are honored to be here in the midst of celebrating the power of achievement, to do something that many people need to dream. So we are proud of you, sir, and may the Lord continue to bless you and family, and also I think Sir Puttaparthi Baba is behind. I think he will honor and will honor both all of us. Mohan was a staunch devotee, including me. I was one of the recipient of Ududi, so that too on a wedding day. So I think I am honored to honor a legend. Thank you.
I believe can be leveraged for not just research in diabetes, but in healthcare in general, population studies. They are doing nutritional studies. It's truly the breadth is amazing. I would request every one of you to visit if you have not already visited the place and take a look at it. And in our discussions, we probably came up with 10 more things that could be done with the work that they're doing, leveraging the work that they're doing. And in fact, this is the reason for actually my presentation today. And a best example of what is possible, what can be done, what should be done. He is here in Chennai, and I saw that at Dr. Mohan. So when I make the presentation, I think they will probably um, connect with it, and I hope all of you will also, especially the people who belong to Dr. Mohan's. I think you should all be very proud of what you have achieved, what you have done, and others. This is an example of what can be done, and I hope more of this happens in India. In fact, my message to all of you is, uh, you know, we have to support world-class research in India. Uh, Either get involved in research, support research, encourage students to take on science, career in science and research. If you can financially support research, there are many things that you can do. And everyone, I think, should get involved in this. It is a way for us to secure our future, and I will talk about it. Actually, in my presentation, we will talk about it, but here is a wonderful example of what we are capable of in India and what we should be doing, what we have to do it in a much bigger way in the future. When I stepped down from Infosys in 2014, one chapter, one innings got over, and I wanted to make sure that I don't retire, but how can I create a new platform? How can I continue to create impact in whatever way we can? The change clearly is from operate to actually mentor, support, cheerlead, orchestrate, help others achieve things in two areas. One is in the area of entrepreneurship, startups, etc. Second is in the area of research. Because those two, I believe, and I will come back to this, those two, I believe, are very much required as India transitions to India 100 in the next 25 years. These are going to be the drivers for transforming India into a developed economy. The confidence I have in making this transition for India is the 30 years or 35 years of experience that I have had in setting up Infosys and building the IT services industry. Lakshmi Narayan is here, he is again another architect of this. And what we have achieved in India is to create a global leading world-class industry. If you look at the top 10 in the world, 5 or 6 will be Indian. And probably if you look at the top 10, many of them have CEOs of Indian origin, though the company is not registered. And if you look at across the technology industry today, many CEOs are Indian origin. How did this happen? Right? Starting with creating world-class education, all the way to believing that we can create world-class products and services and serve the entire world. Today it's a $220 billion industry employing 5 million people and brings a lot of respect, a lot of foreign exchange. It's about 8% of India's GDP, about 20% of India's export, and we have done that in the 30 years, competing with the best in the world. That's what gives us the confidence to say that this should be scaled up, this should be done in other industries, etc. And that's why I felt that, as I stepped down, this message, this possibility, this change that we have been able to make should be done in other industries also, but especially research and translational research work. So I felt that this has to be done. I will come back to the research and the translational research. In the last 10 years, 2014 onwards, we have seen that on the startup side, significant progress has been made. More than 100 unicorns. Gopal Srinivasan is here. He's again part of the startup ecosystem, supporting startups through venture fund, private equity fund, mentoring startups, etc., building tomorrow's multinational corporations. So we have done actually a lot, and of course completely supported by the government, led from the front by Prime Minister Modi when he announced the Startup India program, Stand Up India program, etc. Similar thing I hope he will do, or the new government will do, in research when the new government is formed in the future, because if it is led from the front by the top leadership, I think it will get enough attention, enough support from government, and of course the population, the citizens will take responsibility of doing this. A simple quote from Steve Jobs, but basically it says that everything around was created by people like you and me. It's not some extraordinary people, and it can be done by everybody. This is Steve Jobs saying, Apple, the most desirable product in the world, and he himself says, that are no smarter than you, and you can change it, you can influence it, you can build your own things that other people can use. I strongly believe that, and this is what led to the investment in startups, but also investment in research. So we need to transition to a product IP-led economy, where the GDP per person, per capita GDP is not proportional to the effort, but proportional to the products and the technology that we create, higher per capita disproportionate to the effort that put in. And this is important when we want to transition to a $30 trillion economy at 2047. And from about 2,500 US dollars per capita, we will actually move to 18,750 US dollars. It's possible to do that if we are able to actually accelerate this transition to a product-led, IP-led economy, from a consumer of products and technologies to a producer of leading-edge product and technologies whose IP that we own. And that has to come out of our research labs, etc. If you take US as an example, it was 1.9% at the beginning of 20th century and became 19% at the end of the 20th century. The first half was their innovation in manufacturing, etc. You would have read about the Ford model of manufacturing, etc. A lot of innovation in manufacturing happened, and then that was translated into their effort in World War I, World War II. The second half, US was the leader in computing technology, and a lot of IP accrued to US. US today is about $27.36 trillion, largest economy in the world. In the 80s, there was a scare that Japan would overtake US. Even as recent as 5 years back, there was and even today, everybody says China is doing a lot more research than US in AI, etc. But where did ChatGPT come from? It came from US. That's the strength of that economy. The entrepreneurship, the research that happens there, and how fast they're able to bring it out to impact society, etc. ChatGPT, as you may know, has become the fastest technology to be adopted. That company itself, OpenAI, is about $80 billion in market cap within a span of just 10 months. That's the power of IP. How much wealth it can create. If all of us buy iPhone in India, let's say they sell 100 million of it or something like that in India, you will find that Apple's market cap goes up by another $1 trillion. That's the multiplier effect of IP. And probably here they will make little profit in India, pay little tax, but all the wealth is created in the US to the investors of Apple. This transformation of Indian economy we need to make happen. We want to create products and technologies that others would use which belong to Indian entities. And that can only happen through our own effort and research, etc. And I believe it can be done. I know I'm seeing more and more and more examples of this, and a lot of the work that Dr. Mohan's team is doing here. There's a potential to translate that and to create wealth out of that, significant amount of wealth. We don't think about it, so we have to concentrate on that and we focus on that. This is something that again I'm hoping that our research institutes will do. IIT Madras is probably one of the best in this through the research park effort that's happening. But many other IITs do not do this. They stop publishing a paper. They don't take it further to commercialize it, to bring out a product of technology. That is a transition that we need to make. So we have to create capacity for large programs in our institutions. We are one of the 4 countries in space, right? Which has landed a module on Moon, Mars, etc. One of the 4 in the world. Now, how did it happen? Because they had a mission mode program to do this, and it happened within the government setup in public sector. Because mission mode, committed funding, long-term funding, people were allowed to develop within that system. You may have read, all of you would have read probably, they have hardly any people from IITs, right? But extraordinary results and extraordinary achievements, right? And I have absolutely no doubt about the capability of our people. Not just the people from IITs, but across the board. Our, let's say 50% of the youth or 60% of the youth are as good as anybody else in the world, and can do a lot of things. So if you can think about large programs, cure for cancer, cure for diabetes, and work at it for many, many years, you've been working at it for 50 years now, committed, focused effort, and that kind of effort is required if you want to create extraordinary results and extraordinary achievements actually. So identify white spaces, and I'll come back to that. In my case, I said I'm going to support brain research. I'll talk about it. Think about also strategic areas for India. So, for example, if you want to transition to a economy that is going to be powered by sustainable sources, or 50% or more from sustainable sources, we need to look at nuclear as an option. Today, 1.7% of our power comes from nuclear, right? It has to go to probably 10% because the wind, solar, etc. Probably cannot actually meet our requirement. Today, 70% of our power comes from coal, burning coal and things like that. And that is a polluting resource actually. So if we want to make that transition, we have to use nuclear. Now, how do we, so these are the strategic areas where we need to have. Now, we have a capability we developed in nuclear, but we forgot to scale it up, we forgot to invest further. Today, people are talking about small nuclear reactors, which can be actually moved around on a truck, which does not produce huge amount of polluting fuels or dangerous spent fuel, etc. It can be disposed of safely, and the entire world is moving towards that. France, for example, of small nuclear reactors and things like that. We need to quickly do that. It will take us probably 10-15 years because we didn't do research on this for quite some time. So strategic areas like these, white spaces where we are not behind anybody else. Cure for diabetes, nobody has found a cure for diabetes. It's a white space. If we can do that first in the world, that it will be our cap, or feather in the cap actually. Look at national interest, and from India to the world. Everything that we do, we must think about how can we use it to the world. Now, I strongly believe that when the West or developed countries do research and produce something, it is only affordable to 10% of the world, the top 10% of the world. It's too expensive. If India does something and produces something, it will probably be affordable to 90% of the world. So India has a very important role in actually supporting the global south, what is called, or the developing countries in the world, which is majority of the population. The vaccine for COVID is a good example. I think US the per dose was $30. India manufactured it and we were able to sell it for $3. And of course, we vaccinated 1 billion people, 2 billion doses. Imagine us doing it at $30, right? We couldn't have afforded it. At $3, yes, still a stretch, but we did it and we could do it actually. So there is a reason why India has to do this and must do it, etc. Again, I can go on with many examples. Immunotherapy is one of the possible cures for cancer. One treatment protocol is about $600,000. Many people in the US can't afford it, right? Now, how do you expect 1.4 billion people to be treated if they have cancer and things like that? So we have to think about from India to the world. India has a particular role to play in making sure that we come up with cures, affordable cures for rest of the world. We have to launch programs which are multi-year, multidisciplinary. We're very good at research. We publish very good papers. In fact, IISc, Institute of Science, has the record of having the most cited per faculty papers in the world. But it stops at papers, right? So research is good. Translational is where we have to address, and we don't do big research. We do small research. One professor, one PhD, one student. That's the kind of team size. We need to look at 50, 100 people working on a particular program. And again, here is an example of large number of people working on one problem, one program for many years to come, leveraging technology. And each of these areas probably should look at $100 to $300 billion revenue generation potential. That's from my experience in the IT services industry. We created a $220 billion industry. So these are steps towards that $30 trillion economy. And I feel that we need to look at, I'll come back to this, 20, 30 programs like this starting now as national missions. Of course, the government is woken up to that. They've announced a semiconductor mission, AI mission, quantum mission. They have a renewable energy hydrogen mission. So they are starting to recognize the need for that. But in private sector, we need to do that. Private sector doesn't invest enough in research. Does not invest enough in research, and we should actually up that. As a country, we should look at taking our research investment from 0.65% of GDP to at least 3% of GDP, of which private sector has to go from 0.2 or 3%, 0.2 or 3% to at least 1.5. That means almost 10 times what they are investing today. And you will see a complete transformation of the country. And I start with people. We have as good talent as anybody else in the world. Anybody else in the world. I have absolutely no doubt about it. The entire world today comes to India for IT services. Whether it's IBM, Microsoft, Google, everybody has their R&D facility here in India. Why do they come to India for R&D? Because this is where the talent is. This is where the talent that can be retrained, that of course is affordable and things like that. We have access to the latest knowledge, technology, equipment, etc. We also represent 20% of the world's population. So from a market perspective, from a data perspective, of course, Talent talked about large market for the solutions that we create, and we need it because we need lower cost solutions. The cost of doing research in India is significantly lower. Multinational corporations understand this. That's why they're setting up their operations here. We need to leverage this for our own benefit and things like that. India has an opportunity to create a better development model. See, 20th century model of development was a consumption-led model. And what has it led the world to? Unsustainable growth, huge inequalities, right? Democracy at risk. We are seeing issues of climate change, sustainability, and things like that. If the world consumes like US, we will need 6 Earths, at least from person day consumption patterns. Now imagine India consuming like US. We'll require probably another 10 worlds, so 10 Earths, if you want to consume like that. That is not a development model that's good for India, not good for the world also. But that's a huge opportunity for us to create a new development model that's sustainable, that is equitable, that's affordable, and that will create a better world for our children, etc. We have some examples in the fintech. We have created a new model using the India stack and things like that, which entire world now is looking at it. So there are significant opportunities for us. In the pharma sector, the generics that we did is helping lower cost of medicine for the entire world, especially for the developing world. So we have examples of this. We need to look at new opportunities and create very large programs, ambitious programs for doing this. I decided to, because research is vast, I know. You could be doing research in many things actually. So I said I'm going to support research. I'm not doing research, so I'm only going to support research. Support research in the area of brain sciences because it's closer to computing. Every development in computing happened because of us wondering about how the brain functions. So for example, the von Neumann architecture in computers, which is the memory and processing is stored, data is stored in the same location, processed at that memory location itself, brought to the CPU, processed at the CPU. So von Neumann wondered whether brain has different regions for storage and computing. Similarly, George Boole thought that we human beings are logical animals, so maybe brain is computing using Boolean algebra. He developed Boolean algebra. And that's the basis for computer science. Now, today we know both of them were wrong. Same neurons store and process information. It's not separate. We know that the brain is an analog machine. It's not a digital machine. So two wrongs created this entire field. Even if you look at machine learning that we use today, ChatGPT, etc., again us wondering how the brain is functioning, but we don't know yet whether the brain indeed is functioning that way or not. It's us imagining that brain does like this. So new models of computing probably will come from us better understanding of the brain. Brain is super efficient. And I was saying in the morning that if you have to study evolution. Why did brain happen? The earlier life forms did not have brain, or brain as we know it. Maybe it had some other way of doing this. So at some point, nature in its evolution decided that animals are going to be better, or life forms are going to be better with a brain that can learn and adapt faster than the traditional adaptation, which takes 5 generations or so. So how can we adapt faster? Put a brain which can learn. I'm just postulating here, but it's wonderful to see how nature operates, and nature as an engineer, nature as a creator, nature as an innovator, etc. And we have always wondered about nature. Going from place A to place B, right? We invented better mechanisms than nature. We invented the automobile. Of course, first it was a bullock cart and horse and buggy and things like that. Then we invented automobile. Then we said, okay, ships and aircrafts. And today we can carry 800 people in an Airbus 380 from place A to place B at the speed of almost at the speed of light. So when humans innovate, they throw the power of machines. That's what we do in computing also. We throw the power of machines. We humans cannot do probably 200 computations in the best person in a minute. Machines can do billion computations in a minute. We throw the power of machine at the problem and solve the problem in the way we think we can do. That's always been the history of human history actually. And same thing we are doing now, thinking, okay, how does the brain function? Now we have created deep learning, but it's sheer power of machines actually that we are doing this. So how can we, and brain 20 watts, 2 pounds, 3 pounds of weight, right? It's an amazing machine. Amazing machine. Nature through evolution of millions of years has found the best way to do this with in nature there's no wastage. Absolutely no. Everything is fine-tuned to perfection. But it keeps improving and never stops improving. So how can we learn from this, do things faster, etc.? So that's the first area that I focused on, creating chairs at IIT and IIC that was mentioned. Again, when I do something, I want to try and see whether I can experiment with something, create some hypothesis, test that hypothesis. So we actually put 3 chairs at IISc, 3 chairs at IIT Madras. Each of these chairs is occupied by head of a research lab in the US. So around them, we can quickly create a small team. So it accelerates developing that field in India because we are kind of building this around an expert already. Publications become easier. Traditionally, if you are a new researcher, to get published is very difficult. But then you put as one of the authors a person who's already published many papers, who's head of a lab, is well known, is probably an editor of a magazine or a science journal, etc. Put him, embed that person in that. Immediately the paper gets accepted and gets published, and in the premier journals, etc. So there are many ways in which we can accelerate this, and that's what I did by creating these 6 chairs and creating this, and a lot of work is happening. Out of this is also one of the centers that IIT Madras today has. On the clinical side, I said let's address the issue of neurodegeneration because again that's an unsolved problem, and entire world is aging. This is a problem that India will also face. Already we are facing about, I think 60 million people are above the age of 60 or something like that. It will become 200 million, very large population. As a poor country, we can't afford that. The burden will fall on the family. And already there are stories of people going to temples, leaving their parents and walking away and things like that. And this will only become more actually. So we are not behind anybody else. Can we now leverage our capabilities, our data, our people to do this? So these are the 2 areas that I focused on. This brain clinical side is bottom up. Cerebral center, traditional way of finding a head, finding researchers, supporting it with funding, etc. The traditional way. Here also we are saying let's collaborate with the best labs in the world, etc. So one of the professors, actually 2 of the professors at IIT Madras, and I was discussing, what could we be doing at IIT Madras that's world class, that will disrupt the thing. And one of the professors was actually doing trying to map mouse brain, neuron by neuron. Casually we started discussing why can't we actually look at human brain, and where do we have an advantage? We have an advantage of one, being in an engineering institute, 2, access to cadaver brains, uh, access to brains at all ages and things like that. And that's the genesis of the Kris Gopalakrishnan Center at IIT Madras. I'll now briefly talk about, very briefly, now the slides I have are little dated, but it's just to show the kind of work that is being done. Again, and I want to emphasize that a lot of the things that you see, you will actually, if you go to Dr. Mohan's, you will see they're also doing similar work actually. So you will find the same, connection there. So again, I already talked about the computational brain research. IAC now, you would have read about Elon Musk's Neuralink. IAC hopes to actually come up with a brain co-processor for some brain disorders, which will be embedded in the brain. The chip will be developed and placed inside the brain for some neurological disorders. They are developing, and they hope to commercialize it in the next, or go for trials in the next 12 months. These are capabilities we have. We can do it in India, right? We don't need to look elsewhere. These are things that we can do here in India. So the Center for Brain Research at IISc, what they're doing is looking at aging over a period of 10, 20, 30 years, 10,000 people as a rural cohort. I won't go through all the details, and an urban cohort of 1,000 people, so that we can compare and contrast between urban people, rural people, looking at nutrition, how they age. So all the health parameters, basic health parameters, cognition, MRI images, X-ray, genome sequencing, everything is collected. I think they are imaging the eye also, because eye is one of the first expression of diseases and things like that. So they are photographing the eye, etc. And their whole focus is to look at risk factors and protective factors. Now, India again will give unique data, which may be useful for the rest of the world, because we eat a lot of spices, things like turmeric and things like that. Now, Ayurveda says it probably is going to help. Now, does it really help? Is the incidence lower in India, higher in India? But there are other challenges. Nutrition is a challenge, education is a challenge, multilingual, is it positive, negative? So this is where the diversity of data can actually give us insights which I think is not present anywhere else in the world. And so they are hoping that the data will point to certain inferences that they can make. This study is now in the 8th year. They are also doing the Tata longitudinal study of aging. When I talk about support for research, there is nobody to beat Tata's. Indian Institute of Science was set up in 120 years back. 120 years back by a grant from Jamshedji Tata. Right? Even today, they continue to support. You would have heard about the cancer support for cancer research they are making, etc. They are one of the largest in terms of philanthropy, support research, etc. So here also they are supporting the Tata longitudinal study of aging. 1,000 people, urban cohort. So the difference between rural and urban: rural mostly not literate, lot of deficiencies in nutrition and things like that. Their social interactions are limited. Urban cohort, slightly older, highly educated, upper middle class, multilingual. So, it'll be interesting to see. Some of the early results are, so there are many possible areas that we can look at. We are finding that 6% of the people are showing decline in cognition already. So we can now start analyzing that. Interestingly, rural women decline faster than men and the urban women. Again, now we have to go and see. This is what data shows. I think they will look at all these things. So, a lot of interesting results are already starting to come. But this data, same data, because it's all health data, right, can be used for hypertension, can be used for diabetes, can be, and this is where we have to come together to actually leverage each other, work together, create much larger vision and objectives and things like that. Genome India is another project which CBR anchored, and then I found out to my pleasant surprise that they have, so this is supported by Government of India. They wanted to create DNA sequences for 10,000 Indians because all the data that our researchers use come from the developed countries. All the data. Any research in genomics happens, they use a database from the West. But then I find that Dr. Mohan has 6,35,000 sequences already. Nobody knows about, I didn't know about it. And nobody's using that data. So this is where we have to learn from each other and leverage each other. Why this data cannot be used for DNA, genome studies in India and things like that. And there are a lot of actually very interesting data. So they have a multi-dimensional dream to be a public health spokesperson, guidelines for how people should manage themselves, how people should take care of dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, etc. can be slowed down. So they want to go from science to translational work, everything in between actually, and so hopefully this work will go on and results will benefit not just India but rest of the world for many years to come. And the IIT Madras work, so they get cadaver brain from conception to old age. So infant brains, neonatal brains, all the way from 16 weeks or something like that to adult and old brains. They get diseased brains, rabies brains, which is a neurological disorder. We still have not found out how it affects people, etc. So this is again a wonderful study, and this the resolution that they have is 10 times better than the best in the world today. 10 times better than the best in the world today. So much so that already 20 different labs around the world are wanting to collaborate with IIT Madras to get access to this data. 20 labs around the world. They're all becoming visiting professors to IIT Madras. Already papers are starting to come out in the best journals. New insights are coming in. New insights are coming already. People have not analyzed brains of neonatal brains, etc. They are able to get brains and analyze it. When does the brain actually start forming? When do those various regions appear? Nobody had any idea. No atlas was there. Now they are producing all these atlas, and so they will add to our knowledge significantly. And at the resolution of the cell, that they are able to do this. And this could be done only, I said, IIT Madras. They had to create a protocol for collecting and storing these brains. That also was published as a paper. Okay. Then they had to figure out how to slice the human tissue at 50 micron thickness without destroying the tissue. An adult brain is 10,000 slices. 10,000 slices of an adult brain. Then how do you create a slide? How do you image it? So you get a two-dimensional image. Now how do you then create a three-dimensional image of this on the computer? Digital image. Each brain, adult brain, is petabytes of data. So that's why they're starting with the infant brain, because it's easier to do, less data. Because you have to develop new algorithms. They're working with NVIDIA. They have to get access to the fastest computer in the world in order to do this analysis. So you can see, how ambitious this program is, can be done. And the whole time they've taken is about 2 years. Thing was conceptualized, they have already processed today. This is like I said, little dated 50 brains. The entire world has done 15. They have already done 50. And you can see, just Google and see the budgets are billions of dollars. Here they've done with probably less than 100 crores. This is what is possible in India. World class work at insignificant price. I don't know. Your budget will, if you go to a diabetic center anywhere else in the world, probably their budget is some 10, 50 times what your budget is. And that is what is possible. So imagine how much we can contribute to the knowledge, to the solutions, and now if we can translate this into product and services, I think India will be a different country, will be in a different league, and the amount of wealth that's generated is unprecedented. So my call for action, be an evangelist for world-class R&D and translational research in India. Support it in any way you can. Encourage your children to take on career in science, research, study science. Less and less number of children are going into these areas now. They're not going for hard sciences, things like that. I talk to philanthropists and foundations around the world, and I say that if you spend $5, spend $1 in India. India represents 20% of the world's population. So 20% of the money you spend in India, you can double your research output. Double the research output. The people are trained in the same laboratory, same equipment, they're as good as anybody else in the world, and we have a lot more people and a lot more data. Right? So we can actually double the research output. So every foundation I talk to now say, are you spending 20% of your money in India? If not, it's your problem, it's your mistake. You're not leveraging the money. Every dollar you spend, you are actually missing out on the benefit of that dollar. Spend it in India. Support visiting chair process. We need to accelerate growth of a new sector in India. How can you do that? Our diaspora is all over the world. Can they spend 1 month here? And transfer the knowledge quickly, create a small group, do collaborative research, support postdoctoral fellows, PhD programs, joint PhD programs, world-class research collaboratively with India. Everybody, I hope, will collaborate with India and set up 20 world-class mission mode large programs. 20 is probably just the start. We probably need to look at launching for a country of our size if we want to have the impact that we need to have. Because the opportunities are there, we should probably set up 50 mission mode programs and produce some results. I have seen some examples. I'm seeing with what I see at Dr. Mohan's examples of the same thing. So more and more I'm confident that it can be done, it should be done, it must be done. And we need to do whatever we can to make this indeed happen. Thank you all very much, and thank you again for coming today and for this honor and privilege for me.
Instantly on a lighter note. So, on a lighter note. So, you talked about getting different types of brains. So, they were getting brains of different people, different occupations, and they were auctioning it to raise money for some good cause. So Einstein's brain and various people's, so they said 1 million, 2 million, it was all going like that. Finally there was one brain which went for more than $1 billion. So they said, whose brain is this? Einstein's went for 1 million, 2 million, who's this 1 billion? No, this is the brain of a politician. It's never been used. So therefore it is the greatest value. So on that note, thank you. I think we should all use our brains.
No. Let me say this. I've actually met many politicians. They are the smartest people around. To be a politician, you have to be very, very smart.